Prime Minister Modi released the 17th installment of the PM Kissan scheme in Varansi today. Under the scheme, more than 9.26 crore farmers received benefits amounting to over 20,000 crores. He also distributed the certificates to more than 30,000 self-help groups trained as Krishi Sakhis. This comes as the Prime Minister authorized the release of the 17th installment of the PM Kisan Nidhi after assuming office for the third consecutive term. The scheme was launched in 2019 with the aim to cater to the financial needs of all land-holding farmers. Benefits of 6,000 per year in 3 equal installments every 4 months are transferred into the bank accounts of farmers, families across the country through direct benefit transfer mode. The scheme has disbursed around 3 lakh crores till now to more than 11 crore farmers across the nation. We'll talk about this and much more in the next half an hour. Joining us on the show is Mr. Vinod Singh, member of the PM MSP committee. Also joining us on the show is Mr. MJ Khan, who is the chairman of the ICFA. Dr. Jayjeet Bhattacharya, president of the CDPR, is also joining us on the broadcast. Thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of this conversation. In fact, let me start by also welcoming Mr. Vinod Singh, member of the PM MSP committee. Mr. Singh, appreciate you joining us, sir. I hope you can hear me. Mr. Singh? Okay, perhaps he's unable to hear me at this point in time. Dr. Bhattacharya, I'll begin with you. Well, you know, the Prime Minister has always been very Kisan-centric, very farm solution-oriented centric as well. You know, one of the few things that he did when he assumed office for a third consecutive term was to think about the farmer. And that's exactly where his heart lies as well. You know, but there's still a lot that is left to imagination. Like they say, there is still a distance between the cup and the lip when it comes to these benefits reaching the last farmer in our country. But, you know, every government has to make a start, and every government has to face the challenges of the enormity of these subsidies. In your opinion, how is this government poised to take these challenges to a level where they don't appear to be challenges, but regular beneficial exercises that even preceding governments in the future can adhere to and inherit?
So, you know, unfortunately, globally, subsidies for agriculture is a reality, and it is a large line item in any government budgeting. But if you look at India, the challenge is significantly larger than in any other country, because 60% of the population, as we all know, still subsists on agriculture. And agriculture is hardly 20% of the GDP. And so 60% of the population cannot live on 20% of the GDP. Something dramatic needs to happen really, really fast. Even in other developing economies such as Brazil, only about 4 to 5% of the population is dependent on agriculture. And therefore, how do we shift the 60% to some other kind of vocation and another kind of income generating activities away from agriculture or value-added industries which live on top of agricultural industries? So, you know, clearly there are also other challenges such as the need to store more grains, which I've discussed on your channels multiple times. There's need to put in a large amount of infrastructure for agriculture and post-production processing of the food, and then subsequently storage of the food in multiple ways. And therefore, if that is brought under focus and changes in regulations are brought in place so that there is consolidation of land and so that the smaller farmers can then take on more remunerative income opportunities, then that is what will actually lead to, you know, income enhancement of the farmers, while we also provide remunerative job opportunities for the others. Now that's very easy to say. That's easy to say. We have you know, the world's largest population now, and 60% of that population being transformed and pushed away from agriculture into something else is a very, very tall order. So while we are doing this transition, and state by state, as we have to make these changes, we also need to make sure that nobody falls below and becomes vulnerable in that sense. And therefore, these subsidies become very, very important. But we must have a glide path away from supporting 60% of the population. I'm not necessarily saying that we stop subsidies for agriculture, because that's a matter of a detailed issue. There are global pressures, and we need to make sure that our agriculture continues to be competitive. But ensuring that we don't provide subsidy for such a large amount number of people and we try and reduce that, which will increase farm efficiency, which will increase productivity, and also lead to transformations in multiple sectors. It'll also lead to a lot of labor getting released into the market. And these are very challenging tasks. It's not easy for any one government to finish it in a 5-year term, or even for that matter, in a 10-year term.
All right, Mr. Binod Singh, member of the PM MSP committee, also joins us on the broadcast. Mr. Singh, I hope you can hear me, sir. Thank you for taking out the time and speaking with NewsX. Sir, can you hear me? Okay, perhaps not. Let me, in fact, once again rope in Indrashekhar Singh, agriculture policy analyst, into the conversation as well. Indra, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
All right. Indra, of course, Mr. Bhattacharya has made some astute points here. He said that, such a large portion of the population of the farming community cannot survive on a limited portion of revenue and GDP and income that is generated for them. Are these measures bridging that gap, or do you think there is still, time before we see the fruition of these activities and these yojanas coming forth and benefiting the farmers?
See, I do agree with Dr. Bhattacharya when he says that it's not the mandate, or it's not even humanly possible for one government or even two governments to fulfill this. Our nation, after 75 years of independence, is still dealing with an agrarian crisis. Although big steps have been taken, but still the problem of agriculture has not been solved. Now, what needs to be done? We don't need to reinvent the wheel always. Of course, it's a very sound suggestion that people need to be shifted out of agriculture into other sectors. But the current state of the economy, the global pressures, do not allow for such an opening to happen. So how can we still at least stabilize the ship and not let it sink? And that's where I would like to propose, something that the US government did after World War II. They introduced 10 years of price floors, and these are on all commodities. Price floors mean that there is a minimum cap and there's an upper cap, which is backed by grain reserves and other policies, which then stabilize the market prices. They basically control the supply chain. So in a 10-year period, after World War II, the American government, and this is one of the most successful agrarian programs in the world, lifting many, many millions of farmers out of farming. And once they had the cash income in hand, the next generation after those 10 years were over naturally went to colleges. If we improve the economic situation of our farmers, if we improve, their buying power, their purchasing power, we will, everyone wants to send their children to a private school. Everyone wants their children to do well, move to the cities, go abroad. Punjab is a good example of that. Why can't we boost the rural economy by giving price floors, cut the subsidies out? Let's actually take the real cost analysis, because someone is paying that money anyways, whether it's the taxpayers paying that money for subsidies or somewhere else. So it's not that cost is disappearing. That cost is still there. I'm proposing a very simple idea. Put the fair cost, put the actual cost, remove all subsidies, give the farmers price floors over at least 10 years. And you see the transformation it will have, not only in agrarian India, but also the whole rural sector by itself. The rural society, rural services, rural purchasing, and rural consumption, which is all very low right now. You will see a catapulting of these figures, because they will rise immediately in a 10-year period. We will remove problems of violence, of crime in our rural societies. We will decrease pressure on the Meg-Narega scheme, and in the end, the revenue of our nation, the hard-working, the tax rupees which we all are paying, less of that budget will go to agriculture. The only right solution is that we have to think of how other countries dealt with it and how we can also adapt that for India. The MSP program, of course, it has its faults. It has also some of its pro points also, but we need to reimagine it to suit the modern economy. So how can we ensure social justice, agroeconomic justice, and also cheaper food and good food?
You're absolutely right. Mr. Khan, taking a leaf out of what Indra just said, that we have to reimagine our economy, and we have to, in fact, focus on the aspects of social justice as well when it comes to the farmers. Do you think whatever the government is doing is, the trajectory that the farmers will appreciate?
Certainly. In fact, even if it is symbolic gesture for Prime Minister to sign the first file of releasing the installment for the farmers under Kisan Nidhi, but it has sent out the signal that agriculture is going to be priority. Now, looking into what the other two speakers just shared their thoughts, agriculture has grown over the years, no doubt about it. We take a lot of pride in saying that we are now number one in these commodities, number two in these. Through green revolution and white revolution and blue and golden and all. But farmers' conditions have not improved to that extent. So therefore, while agriculture production kept on making records, the farmers' income level kept on declining, and therefore that worsening ratio of what rural-urban income ratio that we often refer to. So therefore, there is a number one, the need to give out cash in the hands of the farmers, because additional cash in the hands of the farmer will certainly create more rural demand and overall catalyze the economy. But what is more important is the shift from being production-centric, which we in the last 70 years have been, and rightly so, because when there is a deficit, whether the university curriculum or the research system or policy making, all have been centered to maximize production. Now that except two commodities, pulses and oil seeds, every other commodity, either we are self-sufficient or surplus. So therefore, that shift and, that was the reason of why 3 acts were passed. But unfortunately, that couldn't happen. So more of the investment in the post-production infrastructure, in value addition, in trade, agri-businesses, logistics, warehouse management, and so on, so that, and then better connecting farmers with the consumer, so that greater pie of what consumer spends come to the farmer instead of a larger part of it going to the middleman, which in cases of vegetables we see, but which has been significantly reduced in case of milk and partly in the grains. Unfortunately, the decline of 3.8 million tons of rice production has again sent the alarm bells, and therefore the production focus again. So both, I think, balance is required to be there, but what we need to do is that how farmer gets more out of what his efforts, and therefore rural economy must be strengthened, and therefore the Kisan Nidhi plays important role, and that is probably the point of discussion today. In fact, we were expecting, this was incidentally and fortunately that Mr. Shivraj Singh Chauhan, who is now Agriculture Minister, the subcommittee in 2019 under the BJP's manifesto committee he was heading, that made the recommendation for the Kisan Samman Nidhi, and that needed to be probably increased. But somehow, maybe sometime later, the amount is also doubled, so that more money in the hands of the farmers, the more investment in agriculture, more market activity in rural areas, and so on. So overall economy, that it positively impacts.
All right, let me also try speaking with Mr. Singh once again. Mr. Singh, I hope you can hear me now, sir.
I can hear you loud and clear. This is Binod Anand.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Anand. So we are talking about what the Prime Minister has prioritized when it comes to the farmers. But there are a number of issues experts have flagged, not only on this show, but otherwise as well. In terms of storage facility, adoption of mechanization, adoption of AI and digitization, irrigation facilities, soil fertilities, there are a number of challenges that the farmers and the community who wants to help and work with farmers continues to be worried. Again, the question is, are we headed in the right direction when it comes to the yojanas that the Prime Minister has put out? Because obviously a community of this enormity will be a slow burn. It is not an overnight transformation that we're looking at, but the fact is that the doubling of farmers' income is something that has always been a priority of this government. And the PM has said that the Kisan ka Samman is nation ka Samman.
Absolutely. You see, the thing is that the Honorable Prime Minister has given a very good message to the country by doing that. And it is very much clear that it is not the one department and one ministry which is addressing the farmers. It's not only the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, but it's also other ministry like Ministry of Cooperation and other financial institutions are working in tandem to bring the farmers on a different pedestal. This is a time when the Prime Minister is thinking to give more bargaining power to the farmers, so that in the global value chain, the farmers find themselves at a different place altogether. You see, the scheme like the largest investment in the warehousing schemes, creating PACS to Apex system, that is a primary agriculture credit society to the Apex banking system, the kind of credit arrangement, the kind of storage facility, the kind of the blockchain linked monitoring system of the farmers' welfare schemes, putting the things on Pragati. So these are the various plethora of issues which is bringing the farmers on a different stream altogether. No government so far has done that kind of investment which this government has done in last few years when it comes to the creating a farmer-centric value chain. So that's how the things are a bit different. The things are not only giving the farmers the the Samman Nidhi, but also after doing that, what set of changes is required and what slew of measures, how the union state government is going to be addressed, and if the state government is not working, not functioning, then how the union government can take up the things by the cooperatives. So this is how a few things are there. You see the value chain. In the value chain, rightly, Mr. Khan has said that there are various issues, especially the pulses and oil seed, where the government has done a lot of innovation. Today, a farmer, while just logging into the portal of NAFED, can assure that their pulses will be procured. They will be assured that their oil seed, things will be procured. There are a lot of crop diversification things are happening. Fertilizer control orders are changing. They are not only dependent on urea and DAP, but various other measures they are utilizing. More than 50 changes has done in the cooperative sector, which is directly addressing to the farming community. So these are the slew of reforms which are going to be at place, and that's how the farmers, the participation in that global value chain, especially in the other commodities, and especially they are having done all the cafeteria approach, how to sell their produce. So that's how the things are different at this moment than that of the other in the recent past.
You're absolutely right. Dr. Bhattacharya, of course, let's also talk about some of the other issues that somehow elude, a lot of these yojanas and a lot of these endeavors that the government undertakes, because obviously they're starting from the bottom up. There's climate change that they need to deal with. There's soil erosion, there is a problem of biodiversity loss, there is water resource depletion, lack of capital. Even if there is capital available to the farmer, the sensitizing a farmer when it comes to how to avail it and how they can benefit is something which is still missing. Labor and other inputs are also becoming a major issue for the farmer at this point in time. This is obviously a 360-degree, an eagle's eye view of what's happening on ground. But the fact of the matter is that one solution at times is just not going to be enough. You cannot have, the same set of formulas for all the farmers. There has to be some sort of a customization as well. Do you concur?
No, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, the challenge is that the moment there is an intervention into free market in form of, let's say, subsidies in any form, we can take up any case. It distorts, and it distorts in the manner that the ecosystem start getting dependent on it. Whereas subsidies is supposed to be transitionary till the larger market forces stabilizes and there is a support for both the people and the industry per se, which in this case is agriculture. So in a way, subsidy itself starts distorting, and therefore all the other changes that needs to be brought in is difficult to bring in. To take an example, because of the MSPs and the subsidies being given in Punjab, the cost of land in Punjab is very high, and therefore to acquire land for any other purposes, such as an industry, becomes very difficult. Now let's also look at, and therefore if you can't acquire land, you cannot have industry, and therefore you are back in the rut that there is no other opportunity but agriculture, and that's how subsidy starts getting distorting the entire picture. Similarly, subsidy on power. We have heard of pumps being kept open because power is zero cost, but it's erratic, and therefore the pumps are kept open. And whenever the electricity comes, it starts pumping out water from the groundwater, no matter if you need that much or not, because there's nobody looking into it. Now, obviously, automation can be brought in. We can have precision agriculture. We can have timers, which will ensure that only a requisite amount of water comes out. Or in precision agriculture, where you can have the furrows 4 inches closer, which will then, when you add up the entire field, it leads to much more productivity of the field, because you can have much more of planting done in that area. So as you rightly said, there are many small things to be done, but also the larger pieces are important. And also, as one of the panelists has mentioned, there is a play between what the state, what falls under the state subject and what falls under the central government subject. The two needs to move in tandem, because it's not the food security and farmer security of a state, but it's of the nation. And similarly, like many other issues such as pollution, which cuts across states, it's a national issue. Agriculture is also a national issue, and therefore many of the policies needs to be worked out in tandem with the state and the center working together in alignment. And therefore all the small things that you're talking about and the larger things which will enable these small things to happen should fall into place. Now, fortunately, we are seeing that a lot of startups are getting into enabling technologies for the farmers. But what we are also seeing is that there isn't too much of a focus on skill development of farmers. There is skill development for telecom, there's skill development for electronics, there's skill development for everything else. But although for 70 years we have been saying skill development for farmers, on the ground there seems to be limited skill development, which is where their ability to quickly adopt new kinds of seeds, new kinds of techniques, new kinds of technology seems to be limited. Also, even though the government throughout the last so many decades has invested significantly on research, on agriculture, and we have done very well. It's not that we have not done well, but the systemic issue that our population has grown that much more, and therefore the productivity from land is needed that much more, and we are squeezing out every bit from what the soil can provide, and therefore depleting the soil nutrient without actually putting in the right kind of nutrients back. Now, as again the panelists were saying, because of the distortion in the subsidies for fertilizer, there is a propensity to use more of urea fertilizer than the PNK. So more of the nitrogenous fertilizer, because that's how the subsidy is structured. Now, somehow in the farmer's mind, it is that if I put more fertilizer, no matter what it is, I'll get more productivity out of it. And unfortunately, what happens is when you put urea, you get more green foliage, but not more productivity. You don't get more fruits or more vegetables. Only green foliage.
Dr. Bhattacharya, in fact, we've run out of time. Let me just quickly rope in the other guests as well. Let me take quick concluding thoughts from them since we've run out of time. Inder, I'm going to come to you. 30 seconds. Your concerns and your suggestion in terms of areas of improvement, whether it's access to markets or lack of financial resources. What should the government prioritize next?
I think the government should stop doing agricultural propaganda to begin with. The government is not addressing real issues like the rising rural debt. If everything I think one of the panelists said about agriculture and the great innovation BJP has done, we wouldn't have been in this agricultural mess. Okay, with falling farm incomes, with falling rural consumption, there are various other stats, also malnutrition stats, also climate stats, and also the world's biggest protest movement to have ever emerged under any world government happened with Modi. So let's not lie to our people in our audience that agriculture is doing well. It's doing very poorly. And if we have to reimagine solutions, I think they have to come from taking every stakeholder on board and then talking with them. Climate change, biodiversity are very pressing issues. I want to ask the government, why is their organic mission failing so badly? Why did the Agriculture Ministry have to return the money back to the Finance Ministry because they could not utilize the funds? I'm saying, why is the Agriculture Ministry not working independently with other ministries and making it possible? This politics over state thing, party, this, Modi ji, non-Modi ji, Rahul ji, all this is actually causing problems for farmers. Let's not do agricultural propaganda and let's actually think of real solutions.
Okay. Mr. Anand? Sir, which areas would you like to see go through some improvement in the next 5 years at least?
Not 5 years. We can see the river basin in next 1 or 2 years. When the PAX mini mandi will be announced, PAX as a mini mandi. You see, the thing is that there is an intelligentsia, there are intellectual people who are not able to understand what the value chain is. The value chain has never been the farmer-centric. This is the first time that farmer-centricity value chain is there. And that this is the causing great trouble. First time the minimum export price of the is being called on. There is nowhere in the history of the the Indian agriculture governance when people have thought about it. Number one. Number two is that today the farmer is also an energy generator, which they are not conceiving. This is the time when biogas and even the compressed biogas is being mixed with even ethanol is getting mixed with aviation turbine fuel. The kind of investment is being done and the kind of private sector, the way they have welcomed it. So you see, wait for some time, and I think Mr. Singh will be very happy to see the changes. what the farmers are going to.
Can you tell me how many time periods? So can you comment on this channel and say what time will this be done by? 5 years, 10 years? Can you give a time if you're so sure that by this year things will change? Can you give me?
You need to see, gentlemen, see 960 crores in investment in Patiala and 60,000 cars are running on ethanol. You can't see the positive things. It is your problem. 1 lakh crore
The sugar industry
invested in agriculture infrastructure. Let me speak, Mr. Singh, first. Don't interrupt me in between. I haven't interrupted you, right? This is not the way.
Okay, let him finish.
So you see the thing, what are the successful changes are. So the kind of investment has been done in the packs, the kind of investment is done in the rural area. This is the first time that it is happening. And today the budget of agriculture and farmers' welfare is more than that of the 5 ministries added together with the things which were earlier. So
Okay.
wait for some time.
Okay. All right. We'll wait for some time, Mr. Khan. Right, Mr. Khan. Quickly, concluding thoughts from you. We have a paucity of time, a serious paucity of time. Mr. Khan, quickly, sir.
Yeah, 3 small things that I would suggest. One, that if agriculture can be brought to the concurrent list of constitution, there may be difficulties, pros and cons, but since center-led lot of interventions are happening, and there is a lot more happening on the post-production side, that is where the energy need to be put, and therefore bringing it to the concurrent list will make a lot of things easier. Second, more money wherever possible instead of subsidies can be given to the hands of the farmers, direct benefit transfer, so that farmer can judiciously apply where he wants to apply. And lastly, that digital technologies, lot more innovation is happening. A lot of collective thinking is going to agriculture now than ever before. Non-agriculture people are interested in opportunities in agriculture. Therefore, pace of innovation has accelerated. So little more work on digital technologies. So I think these 3 should make a little more efficient and our competitiveness and.
All right, sir.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.